The plasma chains burned against Princess Salith's wrists as the transport ship lurched through the warp gate. She couldn't feel her legs, hadn't felt them since the neurovirus ravaged her spine 3 cycles ago, but the pain in her arms reminded her she was still alive, still a burden, still unsold. 47 suitors had rejected her. 47 noble houses across 12 systems had turned away the crippled daughter of a dying empire. The Vrexian guards didn't bother hiding their disgust. One kicked the hover platform supporting her limp body, sending it spinning against the bulkhead. Salith bit her tongue until blood filled her mouth. Crying would only make it worse. "Final stop," the captain announced through the intercom. Corvash Station. If nobody claims her here, she goes to the labor mines. Salith had seen the reports her father tried to hide. Facilities where the unwanted, the broken, the genetically deficient were worked until their bodies gave out. She had perhaps 6 months if they sent her there. 6 months of agony before her useless legs became a coffin. The docking clamps engaged with a metallic shriek. Through the viewport, Salith glimpsed Corvash Station, a massive ring of gunmetal gray spinning against a backdrop of stars. This was neutral territory, governed by the Corvash matriarchy, where Queen Theraxis ruled with calculated indifference to the squabbles of lesser empires. The airlock hissed open. A delegation waited in the corridor, but these weren't merchants or slavers. 4 figures stood in formation, wearing armor unlike anything Salith had seen, smooth, adaptive plating that shifted colors with each movement, and weapons that hummed with barely contained energy. At their center stood a woman, human. Salith's breath caught. She'd heard stories of humanity's recent emergence into galactic society, whispers of a species that had clawed its way from a backwater planet to challenge ancient powers through sheer stubborn will, but she'd never seen one in person. The woman was tall, muscular, with skin the color of burnt copper and eyes that reflected the corridor lights like polished amber. Scars crossed her exposed arms, not the decorative markings of Vrexian warriors, but real wounds earned in real combat. She wore no ceremonial robes, just practical gray fatigues with unfamiliar insignia on the shoulders. "Princess Salith of House Dravaean," the human said, her voice carrying an accent that turned the vowels rough. "I am Commander Reyna Castellan, assigned by Her Majesty Queen Theraxis to assess your situation." One of the Vrexian guards sneered. The Queen herself sent an escort? For this broken thing? Reyna's hand moved to her sidearm with casual precision. Step back. Salith noticed how the other humans moved. Slight weight shifts, hands drifting toward weapons, eyes cataloging every threat. These weren't ceremonial guards playing at military discipline. These were soldiers. "The princess requires medical evaluation," Reyna continued, stepping closer to examine the hover platform. Her eyes narrowed at the burn marks on Salith's wrists. "Who authorized restraints?" "Standard protocol for defective cargo," the captain said from the transport's entrance. "We had to ensure she didn't damage herself during transit. She's not cargo." Reyna's voice dropped to something colder than the void outside. "She's a member of a recognized royal house, and you violated 3 sections of the Corvash Diplomatic Protection Act." Reyna ignored him, kneeling beside Salith's platform. Up close, the human's eyes were disconcerting, predator's eyes, focused and unblinking. "Can you speak?" Reyna asked softly. Salith managed a nod. "Yes." "Good. I need verbal confirmation. Did you consent to this transport?" "My father sent me." The words tasted like ash. "To find a suitable match." "That's not what I asked." Reyna pulled a scanner from her belt, running it over Salith's body. The device chirped, displaying readouts Salith couldn't interpret. "Did you consent to being placed in restraints and transported like freight?" Nobody had asked her permission for anything since the virus struck. Salith stared at this strange human warrior, trying to understand why consent suddenly mattered. "No," she whispered. Reyna stood, turning to face the Vrexian guards. "Release her to my custody. Now. We have contracts, voided under Article 17, subsection 4. The princess is now under Corvash protection." Reyna gestured, and her team moved forward with synchronized efficiency. "You can file a complaint with the station magistrate if you disagree." The guards looked at each other, mandibles clicking in their own language. Finally, the captain spat something that didn't translate and stalked back into his ship. The airlock sealed behind him with contemptuous force. One of Reyna's soldiers, a younger human with nervous hands, approached the hover platform. "Commander, the medical bay is prepped." Dr. Okafor standing by. Good. Reyna looked down at Salith again, and something shifted in her expression. Not pity. Salith had learned to recognize pity. But something else. Recognition, perhaps. You're safe now. I know that probably sounds hollow given what you've been through, but Queen Theraxis doesn't make empty promises. Why would the Queen care about a paralyzed princess from a failing house? Reyna's smile was grim. The words didn't make sense. Marriage contracts took months of negotiation, required consent from both parties, demanded ceremonies and witnesses, and provisional contract under emergency powers, Reyna explained as if reading Salith's thoughts. The Queen invoked her authority to prevent you from being sold to the mines. The marriage is legally binding but can be dissolved once you're stable and have other options. She paused. If you want it dissolved. Random humans didn't marry broken princesses out of nowhere. There had to be a trap, a scheme, something she wasn't seeing. But Reyna had already turned away, issuing orders to her team. Garcia, clear a path to medical. Okonkwo informed Dr. Okafor we're coming in hot. Jen, run interference if any of those Vrexian bastards try to file injunctions. They moved like a single organism, responding to commands before they were fully spoken. The hover platform lifted smoothly as two soldiers guided it down the corridor. Salith watched the transport ship recede behind them, watched the last link to her old life disappear around a corner. What happens now? She asked. Reyna glanced back, her expression unreadable. Now we fix what's broken, starting with getting you out of those chains. The medical bay gleamed with sterile light. Dr. Okafor, a human woman with silver-streaked hair and hands that moved with surgical precision, waited beside an examination table equipped with sensors and monitors Salith didn't recognize. The hover platform docked smoothly, and Salith felt herself being transferred with unexpected gentleness. Vitals are stabilizing, Doctor, Okafor murmured, studying a holographic display. Neural degradation is advanced but not irreversible. We can work with this. Irreversible? Salith repeated. Every specialist in the Empire said every specialist in your empire doesn't have access to human regenerative protocols. Dr. Okafor smiled, but her eyes remained serious. We're stubborn about things like permanent damage. It offends our sensibilities. Reyna stood at the edge of the room, arms crossed, watching everything. Salith noticed how the commander's gaze never stopped moving, cataloging exits and threats even in this supposedly safe space. A soldier's habits. The marriage contract, Salith said. Is it real? Legally binding across 47 systems, including your home empire? Reyna pulled up a datapad displaying official seals and signatures. Queen Theraxis personally authorized it. As my spouse, you're entitled to full Corvash protection, access to medical resources, and immunity from extradition or sale. Why would you... Cranes... Serena's tone made it clear that was sufficient explanation. And because watching them parade you around like damaged merchandise pissed me off. Okafor cleared her throat. Princess, I need to explain the treatment process. Human neural regeneration requires aggressive stem cell therapy combined with targeted gene editing. It's painful, takes months, and success isn't guaranteed. But you have a 73% chance of regaining motor function if you commit to the full protocol. Higher than anything Salith had dared hope for since the virus struck. What's the alternative, she asked. Adaptive cybernetics. We can give you mechanical replacement systems that interface directly with your nervous system. Less painful, faster implementation, nearly 100% success rate. Dr. Okafor pulled up schematics showing intricate prosthetics. You'd be mobile within weeks. Her entire life had been stolen by paralysis, reduced to endless rejections and whispered disgust. Now this human doctor spoke of choices like they were simple decisions instead of impossible dreams. The cybernetics, Reyna said quietly. They're not what you think. Not replacements. Enhancements. Dr. Okafor nodded. Our prosthetics exceed biological limitations. Faster reflexes, greater strength, built-in medical monitoring. Some of our soldiers prefer them even without injury. Soldiers. Salith looked at Reyna, understanding clicking into place. You want me to fight? I want you to survive. Reyna moved closer, and Salith saw something fierce burning behind those amber eyes. Fighting is just one option among many. But yes, if you choose the cybernetic route, I can teach you to defend yourself, to never be helpless again. The plasma burns on Salith's wrists throbbed. She remembered every guard who'd shoved her, every suitor who'd looked through her like she was furniture, every moment of powerless humiliation. How soon can we start? she asked. Dr. Okafor's smile widened. Immediately. But I need consent forms, medical history, and about 6 hours of prep work. You should rest first. I've rested for 3 cycles. Salith met the doctor's eyes. I want to begin. The next weeks blurred into a haze of surgery, rehabilitation, and pain that made the plasma burns seem trivial. Dr. Okafor's team worked with methodical precision, replacing Silith's useless legs with hybrid systems that merged synthetic muscle with neural interfaces. Each procedure pushed her closer to screaming, but she bit down on the medical restraints and endured. Raina visited daily, always at the same hour, always bringing reports on Salith's progress that she read aloud in that rough-voweled accent. Sometimes she talked about other things. Human history, Earth's chaotic emergence into galactic politics, the countless wars humanity fought just to prove they deserved a seat at the table. We're not the strongest species, Raina said one evening, watching Salith's new legs twitch in response to neural stimulation. Not the smartest or longest lived. But we're too stubborn to quit. Is that why you accepted the Queen's request? Salith asked. Stubbornness? Partially? Raina leaned back in her chair, eyes distant. Also guilt. My family made our fortune in weapons manufacturing. We profited from conflicts that crippled entire civilizations. When the Queen offered me a chance to actually help someone instead of just arming the next war, I took it. So I'm your redemption project. You're my wife. Raina's voice hardened. Whatever else happens, that means something. Where I come from. It means I don't abandon you, don't treat you like property, and don't let anyone else do those things either. Dr. Okafor ran final diagnostics while Salith lay motionless, feeling phantom sensations from legs that were no longer entirely biological. The neural interfaces reported perfect synchronization, but her brain couldn't quite process the flood of new data. Try standing, Doctor, Okafor instructed. Salith's stomach clenched. She hadn't stood under her own power since the virus, hadn't even attempted it in months. Fear paralyzed her more effectively than any neural damage. Raina appeared at her side, offering a hand. 1 step. Just one. Then you can rest. Salith gripped that calloused hand and pulled. The cybernetics responded instantly, muscles engaging with mechanical precision. For one terrifying moment she hung suspended between lying and standing, her brain screaming that this was impossible, that she would fall, that weight distributed through synthetic joints and adaptive stabilizers. Her knees locked into position. She stood, swaying, tears streaming down her face as the medical monitors erupted with celebration. There you go. Raina's voice was soft, proud. 1 step down. 1,000,000 more to go. The rehabilitation that followed was brutal. Raina pushed Salith through drills that left her gasping, teaching her to trust the cybernetics, to move with them instead of fighting the unfamiliar sensations. She fell constantly, face first onto training mats, crashing into walls, tangling her new legs until she wanted to scream. But she got up. Every single time she got up. 3 months after the surgery, Salith ran her first kilometer. 6 months later, she sparred with Raina's soldiers and held her own. At 9 months, she could disassemble and reassemble a plasma rifle blindfolded while reciting combat protocols in 3 languages. Queen Theraxis summoned them both on the anniversary of the marriage contract. The throne room was a calculated display of power, vaulted ceilings embedded with crystalline displays showing every system under Corvash control, guards positioned with mathematical precision, and at the center, the queen herself. Theraxis was ancient, even by her species' standards, her scaled skin bearing patterns that denoted centuries of rule. Her eyes held the weight of civilizations risen and fallen. Commander Castellan, the queen said, her voice carrying harmonics that resonated in Salith's chest. Princess Salith. Approach. They walked forward together, Salith's cybernetic legs moving with fluid confidence. She wore simple combat fatigues now, the formal robes of her old life discarded as impractical. Raina walked half a step behind, a gesture of respect towards Salith's royal status that still felt strange. The provisional marriage contract expires today, Queen Theraxis continued. By law, you may dissolve it without penalty or obligation. Princess Salith, what is your decision? The contract had saved her life, given her options she'd never imagined possible. But it was also built on emergency powers and political convenience, not choice. She looked at Raina, this human warrior who'd married a broken stranger because a queen asked, and her conscience demanded. They'd spent a year together, training, eating, talking late into station night about everything and nothing. Raina had never touched her without permission, never demanded anything beyond her best effort, never treated the marriage as anything but a legal shield. I want to renegotiate, Saleth said. The Queen's eyes narrowed. Explain. The current contract was agreed to under duress, without my informed consent. I was desperate and had no alternatives. Saleth straightened, feeling the cybernetics respond to her certainty. I want a new contract. One we both choose freely. Reyna's expression remained neutral, but Saleth saw the slight tension in her shoulders. What terms? Equal partnership. No dissolution clause. Permanent bond under both human and Corvash law. Saleth turned to face Reyna fully. I want a real marriage, if you'll have me. The throne room went silent. Queen Thraxis leaned forward slightly, studying them both with calculating intensity. You understand what you're proposing, Reyna said carefully. Permanent means permanent. No escape clause if you change your mind. I've spent a year learning to walk again, learning to fight, learning that I'm more than the sum of my broken parts. Saleth reached out, taking Reyna's hand. You gave me that. Let me give you something back. Darius, you don't owe me. This isn't about debt. Saleth squeezed harder. This is about choice. Do you want this marriage or not? Reyna's amber eyes searched Saleth's face, looking for doubt or obligation. Finding neither, her expression softened into something vulnerable and rare. Yes, Reyna said. I want this. Queen Thraxis made a sound that might have been satisfaction. Then let it be recorded. The marriage between Commander Reyna Castellan and Princess Saleth of House Draven is hereby formalized as permanent bond under Corvash high law. All rights, privileges, and protections thereof are granted in perpetuity. The crystalline displays flared with legal language scrolling in a dozen scripts. Somewhere in the galactic bureaucracy, databases updated to reflect a union between a human weapons heir and a paralyzed princess who refused to stay broken. There is one additional matter, the Queen continued. House Draven has formally requested the princess's return for arranged marriage to a Vrexian trade consortium. They offer significant economic incentives. Saleth's blood turned cold. Her father, still trying to sell her, still treating her like property despite everything. Tell them, Reyna said, her voice carrying parade ground authority, that the princess is already married. And if they persist in harassment, they'll discover exactly how creative human weapons manufacturers can be with economic sanctions. The Queen's mandibles curved in what might have been a smile. I shall relay your message. Dismissed. They walked from the throne room together, Saleth's cybernetic legs matching Reyna's confident stride. Outside, the station corridors buzzed with the usual chaos of galactic commerce, merchants hawking exotic goods, soldiers on patrol, refugees seeking sanctuary. Your father won't give up easily, Reyna observed. Let him try. Saleth felt the plasma rifle holstered at her hip, the weight comforting and familiar. I'm not the helpless princess he discarded anymore. You're definitely not. They reached their shared quarters, modest rooms by royal standards, but equipped with everything two soldiers needed. Saleth noticed Reyna had added small touches over the months. Earth plants growing in hydroponic containers, photographs from human historical battles, a shelf of books in languages Saleth was still learning. I meant what I said, Saleth told her, about choosing this freely. I know. Reyna pulled off her jacket, revealing the scars and muscle beneath. I wouldn't have agreed otherwise, but you're wondering why. Maybe a little. Reyna sat on the edge of their bed, studying Saleth with those unsettling predator's eyes. You could have anyone now. You're whole, strong, trained. You don't need me anymore. Saleth crossed the room, cybernetics moving silent as thought. She knelt, bringing herself eye level with Reyna, close enough to see the flecks of gold in those amber irises. You're right, she said. I don't need you. I want you. There's a difference. Reyna's hand came up, hesitant, touching Saleth's cheek with unexpected gentleness. I'm not good at this. Relationships, emotions, anything that doesn't involve tactical planning or weapon specifications. Good thing I'm patient. Saleth leaned into the touch. We have time to figure it out. That's what permanent means. Yes. Saleth smiled, feeling the rightness of it settle into her bones, biological and synthetic alike. A lifetime of being too stubborn to quit. A lifetime of being too stubborn to quit. Somewhere in the void beyond, empires rose and fell, wars erupted and cooled, and the galaxy continued its ancient dance of chaos and order. But here, In this small room, two soldiers who had found each other through impossible circumstances made their own kind of peace. Not the grand romantic gesture of stories, but something harder and more real. A choice made freely, a bond forged through shared struggle, and the stubborn human refusal to accept that anything was truly irreversible. Salith's father sent 3 more delegations demanding her return. Reyna responded to each with escalating levels of creative hostility that stopped just short of actual warfare. The trade consortium eventually withdrew their offer, citing irreconcilable cultural differences and concerns about the bride's unstable military connections. Queen Theraxes assigned them both to her personal guard, a position that came with significant autonomy and even more significant danger. 5 years later, when a neurovirus outbreak threatened a colony world, Salith led the medical response team while Reyna coordinated security. They saved 73% of the infected population, every single person they could reach before the virus burned itself out. 73%. The same odds, Dr. Okafor had quoted for neural regeneration. Sometimes the universe had a sense of symmetry. You ever regret it? Salith asked one night, watching stars streak past their transport ship's viewport. Taking on a broken princess because a queen asked nicely? Reyna pulled her close. Cybernetic legs intertwined with biological muscle, 2 different kinds of strength supporting each other. Every day I'm grateful that 47 idiots were too blind to see what I saw. And what did you see? Someone who refused to stay broken. Reyna kissed her temple, voice rough with emotion. Someone stubborn enough to match a human. Outside, the galaxy continued its endless churning of civilizations and conflicts. Inside, 2 soldiers who'd found each other in the wreckage of a discarded life held tight against the void. Not a fairy tale ending, not a grand romantic gesture, just 2 people too stubborn to quit on each other, choosing partnership over and over again until the choice became as natural as breathing. And in a galaxy that crushed the weak and discarded the broken, that kind of stubborn love was perhaps the most revolutionary thing of all.